I'd like to call the August 26th school committee meeting to order. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Thank you. The listing of matters on the agenda are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed, in fact, may be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting will be live streamed for cable. A recording of this meeting will also be posted on the West Bridgewater Community Access Media website, wb-cam.org. Could I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our June 7th, 2021 school committee meeting?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, right into the superintendent's update. Mr. Bardwell.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flynn. We did have a leave of absence request in the district. I did meet with the individual. I have shared with each of you individually that request, and the request was granted. The leave is a one-year leave. There's a date of notification to let us know if the individual will be coming back for the start of the following school year. So I approved the leave. We have posted for the position and are currently interviewing for a position within the district.
Thank you.
Summer update. We had a really busy summer. It's very sad. It's coming to an end, and no matter how long we think the summers are, it's always sad when we get to August 1st. I think all the educators and even the parents probably feel, oh boy, I always feel August 1st and summer's over. It's a sad feeling, I know. But we are very busy. Our extended school year program, once again, very active. We had other organizations using the facilities. Our CATS camp, led by Lieutenant Nixon, and a variety of volunteers, both from the police department and our students, ran a strength and conditioning camp. We had a strength and conditioning camp that was attended, another one for our high school kids. The CATS camp is for the younger kids. Strength and conditioning, we had over 50 kids sign up for that, which was very popular. We had a STEAM camp here at the middle senior high school. Our maintenance, again, did an amazing job getting the buildings ready. It's not easy, especially when we're running all these activities throughout the summer. So them working around the activities is not easy. They continue to do a great job. Our office staff and the administrators continue to work hard scheduling, getting things ready to open the school year, as well as some of the educators who have been in over the summer. And then our summer Wildcat Academy was something new, and I've asked Mrs. Yanis to kind of give us a little bit of information on what that Wildcat Academy looked like. Sure.
So I was very excited about the Wildcat Academy. We had 70 kids from kindergarten to 5th grade. 28 6th to 8th graders, and they came for 2 weeks. They had 2 weeks off. They came for 2 more weeks. We had 11 dedicated teachers who gave up 4 weeks. And what I saw going on in the classrooms was amazing. We had one class baking cookies as part of a math lesson. The 7th and 8th graders got to really know the school. And some kids that hadn't been to school all year because they were remote came every single day. They had an amazing time. It was so nice to hear the laughter from kids and teachers, well thought out lessons, and I was very happy with it. So hopefully, again, we can do it next year. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, great to address some of the learning gaps, achievement gaps that may have been noticed, and also just getting them back into school. Again, Ms. Gassi, some kids who hadn't been here, all year last year, back in school. It's a great way to transition them back again for their social emotional health and recreation.
And I forgot to mention, even students that had attendance problems during the school year were there every day. So that was really a testament to the teachers working. The quality of what they were developing.
Awesome. Thank you to everyone involved. And then we also have, we have orientation programs. We had a couple today. We've got a couple upcoming. So I just wanted the principals just to take a minute to talk about either the ones that just happened or ones that are happening in the future. So if the principals want to go up and just share for a moment, that'd be wonderful.
So the Roselle and Spring Street, all their orientations will be happening this coming week, so it's a pretty busy week. On Monday, the first graders will come in with their parents at 8:30 for a meet and greet. It's an opportunity for them to, get all those nervous feelings out, come in, meet their teacher, find their desk, see who they're sitting next to. That's always the exciting part of the day. And then they'll be ready for the next day to come to school. The preschool is scheduled by teacher on the 1st. So parents and students will be coming in and meeting with Mrs. Matos and Mrs. Dancy, who is our new preschool teacher. And then on the 2nd is our more traditional kindergarten orientation. Parents will have an opportunity to meet with me, Mr. Bodwell, some other staff members in the district, and then get a chance to go down to the classrooms and have a story with their teacher and be excited about the new school year.
Good evening. Today was grade 4 orientation. We had about 85 families in the Howard School. It was awesome. It was nice to feel the energy in the hallway after the students and families were dismissed to go meet their teachers. Definitely relieves some of the students who came their anxiety about looking at lockers and also getting to meet the new face of the building. And it was really great just to meet the families. So, looking forward to next Tuesday. Thank you.
Hello. At the middle senior high school today, we had 2 separate orientations. We had incoming 7th grade orientation this morning from 8 to 10. We had a great turnout. I think there were only about 10 to 12 Chromebooks that were not picked up, so that means that I would say probably 95%. Mr. Lehman and I will do a better job next year of making sure there's no overlap. That was our bad. But it was great. Our Wildcat leaders came. They met with their 7th grade students. Those who had 8th grade power blocks toured parents and students around the building, and they did a better job than I think I would have. They were amazing. And I think everyone had a really good time. It was great to meet some new faces because there's a lot. The 7th grade, we have a lot of the oldest child. So I'm seeing new faces, getting to meet new parents, so it was great. Then at 10:30, we did incoming 8th through 12th graders. One of our new 12th graders is coming actually from, now I'm going to forget, Turkey. So it was great to meet her. She's living with the family, so that's exciting. But again, another, not as big, obviously. We probably had about 20, 25 kids. But it was great. They got to see their classrooms, meet some of the staff, and walk around and just kind of get comfortable with the setting. So, thank you.
Just want to thank all the administrators for all the hard work in setting those up. It is an awesome day to see the kids, see them come in excited, the families, and to see our high school kids who are helping out. So it really is a great day for West Bridgewater to have these orientation programs. So thank you again. Next, they have the back to school plan. Once again, last year we had a reopening plan. I'm happy to say that this year the document won't be 63 pages. It'll be about 23 pages of important information. It'll look something like this. It will be posted out on the website. We're going to continue to have our COVID page on the website. We're going to kind of deactivate some of the old information and activate new information as it goes up. It's in a draft form for the school committee to review. So we can get some input to make sure we're providing a document that's going to be helpful and informative for parents. Maybe simple questions or concerns can be answered by going right through this back to school plan. Again, we want it to be a valuable resource for our families, providing important information, links to DESE guidelines so they can review those if they wish. And then questions they may have about reopening. Reopening this year is going to look similar in some ways to last year, but there's obviously other differences as well. So obviously any kind of COVID-related information will be included in this plan. And as always, if parents or community members have concerns or questions, I enjoy getting those emails because then if one person has it, more likely than not, someone else does, so we can address those other concerns that might be out there. So again, it's meant to be a useful document for everyone as we go through the process of coming back to school. All right, and I want to provide information on masking. I have included here, and I know it's kind of hard to read, but if I did send the link out to all the families yesterday, that paragraph that's up there basically is a statement that gives the Commissioner Riley the ability to make this mask mandate, citing Mass General Law and state mandates. On the second page, it's the specific Code of Massachusetts regulations referring to health and safety standards during a state of emergency or other exigent circumstances. So that is why when he went to the board on Tuesday to look for their permission and they voted to allow him the ability to make this decision, that was based on this CMR for the state of Massachusetts. So again, that just gives a little reference to what he's doing and how he's able to do that. Again, that information is all right inside that document. So what does the document look like? What does the mask mandate look like? So I wanted to go through some of the more important information. It was effective yesterday, the 25th, that public school students and staff in all grades are required to wear masks indoors. All visitors are expected to wear masks indoors. If not wearing masks, they will be denied entry unless they can produce medical documentation. We have events here in school. I can think of sporting events right now in the fall. We have volleyball and so forth. So again, we just want to make sure we're complying with the regulations. The mask requirement is in place until October 1st. There's information at the end of the document, a presentation about that. Masks are required to cover the mouth and nose. And as we adopted last year, supported by our medical group, the mask must attach around the ears and no gaiters. So that's staying consistent from in the past. With the regulations that came out actually earlier this summer, there are no physical distancing requirements. There are mask exemptions are still allowed for medical or behavioral reasons. We'll need an order from a primary care provider stating the diagnosis related to the medical necessity for the exemption. I've talked to Mrs. Diedrichson, our lead nurse, so we'll take whatever documentation we get, we'll review it, and we'll talk back with the families to make sure it meets the criteria. So it's a conversation that we'll have if any documentation comes in. Masks may be removed while eating and drinking and outside, so that's a change from last year. Mask breaks will occur throughout the day. Multiple mask breaks. Again, the goal will be, like last year, to get kids outside as much as possible and allow them time for the mask breaks. Mask requirement for sports are only when indoors. So if a student is playing an outdoor sport, there's no requirement unless they come into the locker room or they're playing a sport such as volleyball right now. Masks should be provided by the student or family, but the schools will continue to have masks available if they forget them, they break them, or whatnot. By federal public health order, all students and staff are required to wear masks on school buses. I've had some questions about discipline, and honestly, our hope is to avoid any student discipline. If people are uncomfortable wearing the mask or don't want to wear the mask, by talking to the student and family so we don't have an issue. And coming out tomorrow, each district must submit a plan confirming that the health and safety procedures are consistent with the mask requirements. So we'll be getting a survey, and I believe it has to be submitted back to the state by September, 3rd. So they have created an exit ramp to, at least for students in grades 7 to 12, to end the mandate, and if the school demonstrates a vaccination rate of 80% or more of students and staff in the school, at this time, the vaccinated students in the school would no longer be subject to the DESE mask requirement. DESE said they will provide additional information in the coming weeks as we prepare for the October 1st, and how do we get to that 80%. I did pull some data this afternoon. I honestly meant to get on at 5:01 to pull the most recent data because it comes out on Thursdays at 5 o'clock, and I missed it. So this data for West Bridgewater and the surrounding and the communities in the state is from last week, so I would only anticipate these numbers go up. But it does show, at least from what I found from the Department of Public Health, that the West Bridgewater has 65% of the population with at least one dose, and 58% full. Students or school-age kids 12 to 15, 42% at least one dose and 33% full. The state average for 12 to 15 with at least one is 65%. And then West Bridgewater residents 16 to 19, 57% with at least one, 52% full. And the state 16 to 19 has 68% at least one. And looking at Plymouth County, 75% at least one dose and 67% full. And the state is at 71% at least one dose. Just to give some point of comparison to where we may need to go to get to 80%, I just wanted to share that information. And now we just want to talk a little bit about the COVID-19 testing information. Mrs. Diedrichson, our lead nurse in West Bridgewater, wanted to share some information.
Hello. I'm smiling, I swear. We're still good. So this year, we're basically starting out as we ended last year with the same guidelines, generally speaking. But what we need to talk about is a consideration for testing options that DESE has provided for schools free of charge. So they have three options. The pooled testing, we heard last year about pooled testing. They're now calling it routine safety checks. It's the exact same thing. Basically, what it is that you would have, with consent, there's always consent with this. This is not something we would just be doing. Individual tests done within the school day, they would be pooled into a group sample, and that sample would be tested. If that sample was negative, it's assumed that all the samples within that group are negative, and that's that. If there was a sample that came back positive, then each individual person in that group sample would need to be tested individually, and then it would need to be followed up from there. We had a collaborative group in our district who looked at this in the spring, and ultimately we decided that it wasn't a great idea for our district. You don't get a lot of return on investment. It's an awful lot of work, and really, ultimately, the districts who did it in the spring found it was like 0.31% positivity rate. So it really didn't, give us a lot of information for all the work that was being done. So we're not really looking at that at this time. But then there's two tests that are diagnostic. And so we're looking at those as potential options for our district at this time. First is the symptomatic testing, and that would be that if a student or staff came in and was having minor symptoms, the nurse would be able to do a rapid antigen test, know the result within 15 minutes or so, and then determine the next steps. I'm just going to briefly talk about each of them, then I'm going to come back and talk about kind of pros and cons. The test and stay is if there were a close contact identified within the school setting. So it's not like, mom is positive and the child is a close contact at home and then they're going to be part of this. That's not it. It's if we have a student who tests positive and we identify close contacts within the school. If they are part of the test and stay program, it would be that they would be tested with this rapid antigen test for up to 7 consecutive days, and if they continually test negative, they stay in school. So the deal is, I think that they have some merit that are worth looking at. The concerns are, let me just back up. The intention with these is to keep kids in school, right? We all absolutely want that, and so that's what these diagnostic tests intend to do. The questions that I have, or the concerns that I have, and nurses throughout the state, we've been talking about this, is that, first of all, with the symptomatic testing, I'm actually going to have to back up a little bit too. the criteria or the clinical symptoms for COVID, they changed a little bit this year. And so there's a lot more that are what they're calling minor symptoms. So it's, like nausea and vomiting in combination with another symptom, headache in combination with another symptom. So they're calling these minor symptoms. Our exclusion guidelines say that if someone just has these minor symptoms, they stay in school anyway. So they wouldn't necessarily be tested. This symptomatic testing would only be used for those students. If someone had a major symptom, the cough, the loss of taste and smell, there's a couple others, if they came with those major symptoms, even if I tested them and they tested negative, they're still going home and they have to follow up with a PCR test. The only reason that we would keep them in school with this symptomatic test is if it was one of these minor symptoms. So it's kind of, you need to think about that. They would be staying in school anyway. It's just another piece of information, that maybe, because it's, as we saw last year, it's not always textbook with COVID. So I think that, is a conversation that should be had considering both sides. The test and stay, again, we're keeping kids in school, which is ultimately what we want. But the concern with that one is that if you're not part of the test and stay and you're a close contact, you can wait to get tested on or after day 5. If you test negative on or after day 5, you quarantine for 7 days, you return on day 8. That's what we did last year. That's still happening. If you're part of test and stay, they stay in school the whole time, and they're tested each day, and if they're negative, they stay. That's awesome if they stay negative. If they suddenly on day 5 are positive, well, they've been in school. And so there's, a concern there. I do think that because we saw last year that we really didn't have much of an issue with school spread. So I do think there is some, confidence that maybe they would continually test negative, but it's a risk. So I just wanted to really explain that, the pros and cons of both of those. I think it's a conversation to be had. I don't know that it's a decision that's made right now. So there's 3 of them. Any test that we do, we get consent for, and we would get consent for each individual test. So the parents could say, if say we offered symptomatic testing and test and stay, they could say, yeah, you can test my student for symptoms, but I don't want them as part of the test and stay. So we would have to gather consent for each of those tests. So starting the year, we're basically going with the guidelines that we ended last year with. If we do these testing options, the guidelines change a little bit. This last year, I was so well versed on the guidelines. I knew them up, down, in, and out. This year, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many different variables because if we participate in the testing program, it's a whole different thing. So, I think starting out the year, we will put out to everybody what the guidelines are without these, knowing that we certainly won't have this in place for next week. And then if we decide to go forward with them and try them out, and then we'll provide that information. We can choose one, we can choose all, we can stop it at any time, we can add at any time. It's a rolling admission. A few things that are different this year are exemptions for quarantine. I just wanted to make note of that really quick because regardless of what we do, close contacts, it's still the same definition, within 6 feet for at least 15 minutes during a 24-hour period, within 48 hours before the person tested positive or started symptoms. The following close contacts are exempt from testing and quarantine. Asymptomatic, fully vaccinated close contacts, classroom close contacts, bus close contacts, and close contacts who have had COVID-19 within the past 90 days. That's basically the gist of it. Obviously, I'm not going to go way into the guidelines because they are dependent upon a few things, but that will be put out there. And to be honest, we're still waiting also from the state for a nice little flow chart because it is, if this, then this right now. And if not, then I'll do my pretty little color-coded thing I did last year. That's no problem. What else? All of this information will be posted on the website. You know, the quarantine guidelines, what the test and stay is, the consent forms, and all of this also will be shared much more in depth with staff on the first day of school. Did I miss anything?
No, we put a lot of information out there. Any member of the committee have questions?
I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. It's crazy, the amount of work that you have to put in and everything you have to keep straight, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, I really appreciate that. And to be honest, that is one of my concerns also with this testing is being able to do this. I did, I did speak with, they give us a program coordinator. And so I did speak with him this morning. It was his first day too, so I'm asking questions. He's like, today's like, you're my first person. I said, okay, we'll figure this out. They do provide staffing if needed. I don't know what that looks like because certainly for the symptomatic testing, I'm not going to call and say, we need someone here now and have them, get a contract and whatever. So I think the symptomatic testing would fall on the nurses. So I do have concerns about managing everything else, and then the test and stay, I think, we might be able to, if we identified close contacts, be able to say, I could call up on, I can't even remember his name, and say, we're going to need some staffing tomorrow, and they do provide some support, so we'll see. I think it's worth a discussion.
Thank you.
I do. Thank you so much. I do have a question, just kind of to translate. I think that I'm on the right track here.
Yep.
I've read a ton. I've read the DESI guidance.
Sure.
And so I just kind of want to translate it for parents and what this means.
Sure.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, of course you will. So as it is now, we're under mask mandate in schools. So if students are seated 3 feet apart, and masked, they are exempt from being a close contact.
So
If they're 3 feet.
they're exempt from quarantine. They're
Okay.
still a close contact. So ethically,
Yep.
I would be calling you if your child was 4 feet. I would be calling and saying, hey, Robin, she was identified as a close contact. However, she doesn't need to quarantine. She's not excluded from school.
Okay.
And then you have the choice to do with that information what you will. If you want to follow up the testing, that's up to you as the parent. But she can remain in school unless she was less than 3 feet.
Right. So then if she's less than 3 feet, and we do have the test and stay available, she can test in school and stay in school and not lose her instruction time.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Because I think for me, when I think about how my kids learn and I think about how all kids learn and develop, being close to one another is so important to them. And so I think about the teachers and what does that look like for instruction time? Are they able to put these kids back in groups if they're masked and we have, testing available? Or, is there a barrier to that? So that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Good. I'm so glad. Anything else?
Thank you.
Julie, I also want to say thank you to you and all the nurses for all your hard work. And again, we want to try to make sure we're aware of that as we go through these changes. And I think at this time, what we're looking at, I think primarily recommending, looking at the symptomatic and the test and stay for the reasons stated that we feel they will allow parents to keep their kids in school if they choose. Again, if they provide consent. If they don't provide consent, then there will be quarantining guidelines that they have to follow, which are similar to last year. But it gives us an opportunity to keep more kids in school if that's the choice of the family.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie.
On to business, donations. Do you have any donations? Anybody? No donations.
Is that on there from?
We did have a donation of backpacks from Jan Fox, brought in a number of backpacks, and we also had a donation from Sandy Churchill from proceeds from the STEAM camp.
Oh, thank you very much.
Both very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. An Inclusion Matters update from Mrs. Dragonetti.
Sure.
So after a year like no other, Inclusion Matters is ready to reboot this fall and continue our mission of building inclusive schools and community. Inclusion Matters is West Bridgewater's Special Education Parent Advisory Council and a registered 501c3 nonprofit. Our job as WB's CPAC is to support families of students with IEPs and 504s by offering advice, advocacy within the school system, and opportunities for education and community building through regular workshops and events for parents, guardians, and families. We'll be kicking off our events with an information table at each school's curriculum night this fall. Please stop by to meet Inclusion Matters board members, ask questions, learn more about us, and join our mailing list for a chance to win some awesome giveaways. In the words of Inga Beale, we all have the ability to promote a culture of acceptance and inclusion. As a parent, you do not need to have a student with a disability to get involved with Inclusion Matters. We are a network of families who understand and care. For more information, you can find us on Facebook at Inclusion Matters MA or by emailing us at inclusionmattersma@gmail.com to join our mailing list.
Thank you very much. Middle senior high school student and athletic handbook. Mrs. Page.
You all should have a little cheat sheet, I guess I could say, with the changes that were made in the handbook for the upcoming school year. Many of them are changes to names. We had an update of school committee members from page 2, an update of the curriculum coordinator on page 3. Page 6, we updated the last date of the NEAS visit, which we just had this past November. Howard School Principal update on page 21. Pages 24 to 25, this was something new. Our NJHS, the National Junior Honor Society advisor, Caitlin Pennington, came to me to ask about there allows for the NJHS to exceed into grade 9. So the grade 9 students are able to participate. So together we talked and we spoke with Mr. Bodwell, and why not? You know, it keeps those students, you know, keeping up on their studies, challenging them to keep good grades, and just giving them another thing that they can be a part of. So that's where you'll see the language. We mimicked it from the NHS language, similar to that, using the bylaws, and that's what you'll see in that language. Page 33, we just updated some antiquated language for the senior students. It's CGA, it's no longer CAI, it's a CGA, and registering to vote. So you'll see that on page 33. And then on page 15, that change was just added today with that new mask mandate, so just the language in reference to, you know, discipline consequence of noncompliance with the statement date. And everything else is just grammatical.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Page?
So the junior honor site you said was just for 9th graders now?
So it's 8th and 9th.
8th and
Before
9th.
it was just 8th grade, so
Okay.
we're including the 9th
The
grade
9th with it. Okay, thanks.
With no other questions, to make a motion to accept the changes presented by Mrs. Page to the handbook?
Moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elementary student handbook, Mrs. Goulet and Mr. Lehman.
Very similar to the middle senior high school handbook. Most of the changes are staffing related. You also have a cheat sheet for the elementary schools. The page 2 and 3 reflect administration changes and membership and roles of school committee. We'll be removing the link to the school COVID handbook. Pages 4 through 6 are reflective of the 3 elementary school staffing changes.
Page 8 speaks to the planners that we're not using them anymore due to students having one-to-one device, and that will be posting student agendas on Google Classroom.
Page 9 is in reference to preschool start and end time. Last year, we changed the start time to, or the end time to give time for cleaning. This reverts back to the original arrival and dismissal. and it also reflects our new extended day program and the times that will run. Page 13, like Mrs. Page said, there's the language in regards to the mask mandate. Page 17, we added the statement about the lunch program being free again this school year. So on page 18, we had to add that parents can purchase a la carte items. And then,
On page 121, there was just a time change from 7:45 to 7:50 because that 7:50 is the actual time that teachers are on for supervision to make sure of safety. In 22, I apologize, that was my error. 8:10 is tardies, the doors will still close at 8 o'clock, so it's just an error I made.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lehman and Mrs. Goulet?
No, that's great.
I'm sorry, I'm really late. What was the discipline if a student doesn't like turn out?
do you want me to, or you want to wait for public forum?
We can talk about that in the public comment section.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the changes by Mrs. Goulet and Mr. Lehman.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Middle Senior High School Senior Privilege Permission Slip. Voting issues, Mrs. Page.
Thank you. So on behalf of the class of 2022, I respectfully put forth the permissions for senior privileges. The only change in the form from last year is literally the dates. It's the same form from last year. For those who aren't aware of the senior privileges, seniors in good standing, meaning grades, good citizenship, on school on time, they are afforded the opportunity to have their lunch off campus along with their potluck. So it's about an hour that they can go and come back, and you know, it's a nice privilege for them. They're very responsible with it. So.
Any questions for Mrs. Page? Could we have a motion to accept senior privileges from Mrs. Page?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
The
Mrs.
class
Page.
of 2022 will thank you.
Yes, they sure will.
All right, thank you very much. Public comment. Members of the audience wishing to address the committee may do so at this time.
Oh, we have 2 warrants.
Warrants.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Did I
no
skip
worries.
over you, Mrs. Dragon?
Yeah, that's okay, that's okay. The
So-
following warrants were issued and paid for fiscal year 2021. Bill warrants. On July 29th, 2021, there was 2 warrants actually, one for $85,224.31 and another for $820. On August 5th, 2021, $96,196.25. August 12th, 2021, $24,074.56. August 19th, 2021, $62,744.63. And then the following 2 payroll warrants. July 23rd, 2021 for $387,555.83. And August 6th, 2021 for $570,543.83. As always, all warrants are public record and once signed are available in the Selectman's office for review.
Thank you, Mr. Dragonetti. Members of the audience wishing to address the committee may do so at this time. Audience members are reminded that personnel issues or issues that would violate student or employee confidentiality cannot be addressed during the public comment section. Hello, sir. Would you like to speak?
Yes.
Could you state your name, please?
My name is Sam Cloutier. I'm a student here at the West Bridgewater Middle Senior High School. I'm in 8th grade. And this is a little bit off topic, but I'm going to be saying why I think we should get the day after Halloween off. Halloween is a chance to have fun, relax, and relieve stress. However, we cannot do that if we have school the next day. If we don't go to bed early, we won't get out all the stress, and if we do go to bed, I'm already screwing up. If we do go to bed early, then we won't get out all the stress. And if we don't go to bed early, we'll be tired, groggy, and miserable for school the next day. Some kids can't even go to bed early because of the excitement, sugar on Halloween, and their sleep pattern. Not to mention, we are still supposed to wake up at 6, go to school for 7 hours, and do homework, plus extracurricular activities, chores, and whatever else we have to do. My parents always say to not slack off and to give things your all. It is important to stand your ground, which is exactly what I'm doing now. Not only for me, but for all the kids of West Bridgewater Middle Senior High School, I think we should do this. Mental health days are very important, and I can't think of a better time to have one than after Halloween. Kids need breaks just to be kids, otherwise they're under pressure, and that can affect how they work and how they study. Mrs. Goulet said we bring in the kids to calm their nerves. That's good for the beginning of the school year, but what happens once the school year starts and they get stressed out? As an additional bonus, we can reduce tardiness and skipping the day after. You guys can call out, email, send, all these things when we get a day notice before a storm. I'm coming to you 2 months in advance. This is plenty of time to get a petition going, do anything that we have to do in order to do it. I know that this is a lot to ask, but I'm more than willing to help, and I strongly believe that we can do this together.
Thank you very much. One thing I think there, I think you just made a lot of new friends. We could talk about Mr. Boswell. I know our school calendar is set this year.
It is set for this year with a lot of things that are predicated on it being set, but I think it's something we can have for a discussion moving forward. We always do bring up the school calendar every year, Sam, so we can bring it up later in the year for next year and absolutely consider all your good words. But thank you for taking the time to come up and do that. And what's your favorite candy? Nice job. Good guess.
Sam, I'd like to right behind you. Appreciate your comments, Sam. I think there has been a movement within the state almost to make Halloween the last Saturday of the month at times. So there are some people in the State House on the same thinking as you right now. So again, thank you for your comments. That was great. It was well done. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Tim Cloutier. Probably can't follow that act, but just a quick question on the mask mandate. And I know it's the state and people have a lot of different views and it's probably not going to get solved here. I'm just curious, in all your discussions with all the education boards, did people take into account, or are there being studies done on the impact of masks on the learning, child psychologists, what this is doing to the kids versus just the data they're getting from the CDC on infection rates? And obviously what you showed here looked like there's sort of a wear a mask until you all get vaccinated. It's another kind of push to get vaccinated, which is, again, a personal choice. But I'm just wondering, in all this conversation, are people actually talking about the impact of the masks on the kids and all these people making decisions at the State House and at the government level? Does that even come up?
I can't speak to directly who was on their advisory committee. I would assume, but I don't like to assume that.
I mean, do you guys get any information on that? Being school boards, do they present this type of information to the school boards to discuss or to even review?
We're not part of the decision-making process, as you stated, but I think it is something that internally we do talk about. The administrators talk about it, our school psychologists talk about it, and we do recognize the concerns that you're mentioning.
Okay,
Absolutely.
but there's nothing that here's a mandate, that they come down with mandates, but they don't share studies that they've done over the past year or the prior year, not even the development of children, but what this did to basically a lost year of learning last year. I mean, I'm not looking to get into the mass debate. I'm just wondering, are they looking at other things besides just CDC guidelines? Are we looking at developmental issues that we could be negatively impacting on our kids with these decisions?
I can't speak to what I apologize, I can't, but I do feel it should be coming into play at that level,
Right.
because that's part of the whole.
I mean, it's concerning to me if you guys aren't getting this information, right? And not saying you're not doing your jobs, it's the layers above, right? If they're not taking that into consideration, it should be a balance, right? We're gonna do this because of this, right? And you weigh it, but it's not even like we're even taking all these actions that we're putting in place, some of the downstream impacts and long-term impacts that it could have. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. They're well thought out. Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Carol Langley. I have 2 kids in West Bridgewater Public Schools. According to West Bridgewater's DPH page, On the 22nd, June 22nd of this year, West Bridgewater had a total of 705 confirmed COVID cases, 1 active case on that day, 3 deaths, and 701 recoveries. At the same time, within the last year, 1 in every 4 children has contemplated suicide. That means if you have a child, one of their friends seriously considered ending their lives. At the same time, the amount of antidepressant prescriptions being written increased by 600%. So I ask you, where is the greater health risk here? Because from where I stand, it's an emotional, like the depression and anxiety that our children are facing, and masks do contribute to this, with my children at least, and I'm only speaking for my own, but I know that your teachers and nurses would have witnessed this in the classroom and in the school buildings as well. So DESE's mask mandate isn't actually about masks. It's not about COVID, a pandemic, or the health and safety of our children, although I wish it was. We've been fighting to maintain our right to file religious vaccine exemptions since well before COVID. If this was about health and wellness and the safety of our children, DESE would be ordering schools to consult industrial hygienists to address air filtration and circulation within the school buildings and classroom instead of mandating masks until children receive an investigational vaccine. The focus would be on nutrition and encouraging families to talk to their physicians about vitamins and supplements in order to strengthen their immune system in the event the child was exposed to COVID. We know we're a nation low in vitamin D, which does negatively affect COVID outcomes. That's the only medical testing that DESE should be recommending, and they should be recommending it be done by the child's physician and supplemented, if necessary, by the child's physician. In the event a child develops COVID, they have a 0.02% of risk of death or disability. The risk of death or disability from a traditional vaccine is 2.3%. And despite claims that these vaccines are just as safe as traditional vaccines, VAERS reports, the amount of VAERS reports that have been filed have blown up. I don't know if you guys follow it, I do. We haven't used COVID vaccines in kids under 12, so the idea that we're going to be able to unmask children in October is insane. It's absolutely insane. We're not going to have 80% of our student population vaccinated anytime soon. And they can't say it's safe because we haven't done this yet. We haven't given these kids 12 and under these vaccines. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't think West Bridgewater is ever getting to 80%. It's too small a town. People know each other way too well. And there's only so many times a child can get hurt by a vaccine before you can no longer deny that the vaccine was causative. And when kids start getting hurt or dying, parents aren't going to vaccinate their kids. Most of you are unaware that we've been fighting to maintain our medical freedom and parental rights since well before the pandemic started. Mass state legislators have been pushing to remove your right to file a religious waiver and decline vaccination for your child or alter the CDC schedule in any way by holding the free and appropriate public education each child is legally entitled to hostage for a ransom that parents of vaccine-injured children like myself cannot afford to pay and others simply aren't willing to. Currently, there is legislation in our state house that calls for vaccination stations in elementary schools and would allow your children to be vaccinated without your knowledge or consent. You would not be notified, nor would you have access to those records after the fact. Children who are not vaccinated according to the CDC schedule would be denied a public education, or parents would be forced to file a document with the DPH essentially admitting child endangerment and medical neglect should they refuse to follow the CDC schedule. We have protested, we have rallied, we have testified at hearings, we've met with Mass state legislators and politicians, and the biggest political figure I met with explained to me that politics goes where the money is, and pharma has a lot of money. Boston is flush with big pharma money and NIH money. Our politicians have been bought and paid for. This isn't about masks. I became involved in the medical freedom movement because when 2 of my children suffered life-altering vaccine injuries, the medical system abandoned them. I had to fight like hell for answers that should have been obvious. My children should have been able to obtain treatment for their injuries. And instead, everybody was hands off. Everybody backed up. Treatment was available. We could have done something to help my kids. Both of my children suffered encephalopathy from routine vaccinations. And when they did, instead of treating the child appropriately, everybody denied. Deny, deny, deny. I literally had to fight like hell to find out what happened to my children. Now I can explain to you how vaccines caused my son's autism. And nobody can argue me because I literally filed a vaccine injury petition in federal court. I took on the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, and I did it myself. I found the #1 autism expert in the world to testify on my son's behalf. My kids are exempt from vaccines due to medical issues that also put them in the high-risk category. They're the ones everyone's always yapping about protecting. If you want to protect my kids, keep yours home when they're sick. I'd never ask anyone to risk their child for mine. If you want to mask your kid, you do that. If you want to get your child an investigational vaccine, you do that. But don't bring my family into your decision. I wouldn't wish what happened to my family on anyone. Desi has no right to my child's face, my child's body, and neither does anybody else. A Kentucky judge recently ruled that mask mandates are unconstitutional. Not only do these mandates violate our child's constitutional rights, it also breaks 21 separate laws and violates the Nuremberg Code. Does Desi have the authority to order a mandate? Probably. They can order whatever they want. The more important question is, do they have the authority to enforce it? They've passed that buck on to you guys. And how are you guys going to enforce, like, what's the disciplinary plan if my kid shows up to school without a mask on?
I think Mr. Bodwell spoke to that we would like to handle that without laying out anything. He would like to handle it with the parents.
Okay.
And would like to have a discussion one-on-one.
So my children cannot be vaccinated. They will not be vaccinated. I don't want my kid in a mask. That was hell for him. It was absolute hell. It was a fight every day. I'm not having that fight again. We took the mask off for the summer program. I don't want that mask back on. I told him he could go to school without a mask. We're all done with masks, bud. You're good. I don't want to go back on my word. We know that these masks, these cloth, they're not N95s. We don't even have the kids in the right mask. And the argument is, oh, well, droplets. It's the COVID molecule attaches to droplets, right? Well, you know what else stops droplets? Your elbow, the crook of your arm, a tissue, even your hand, which isn't, that's not our best option, but my son's not going back into a mask. I teach my children they have full autonomy over their own bodies. Nobody has the right to my child's body. You have no right. You have no right to do a medical test, and obviously Julie was very clear that they'd be consent, which I do appreciate. I also teach my kids to take a stand when something's wrong. And when government becomes tyrannical, resistance becomes duty. This isn't about protecting our kids from COVID, and I wish it was. It's about transferring a parent's right to make medical decisions about vaccinate their children to the state. And I feel like people aren't aware of this. This is very real. If you, when you go home, I'm going to ask you guys to do me a favor and Google the Community Immunity Act. That's scary. If you agree with the CDC schedule now, that's great, fine. But once they take away our ability to decline a vaccine for our kids, they're going to add whatever the hell they want to that schedule. Every vaccine they add adds money to their pockets, and they have no liability. I sued our government because the pharmaceutical companies that were responsible for my children's injuries were untouchable. I sued We the People because pharma has no liability for what happened to my kids. And Congress was supposed to have, it was the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, was supposed to be submitting biannual vaccine safety studies to Congress since 1986, and this never happened. And had that happened, I probably wouldn't be here because my kids wouldn't have gotten hurt. In any event, I have grave concerns about Desi's recommendations. And I don't think they have any right to put this on our kids. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
My name is Kenny Robinson. I'd like to piggyback on what she had said. I'd like to ask the school nurse, does the vaccine stop spread of COVID-19?
No, we've seen vaccinated people as positive for COVID.
Right. So if 80% of children and staff get vaccinated so they can take off their mask, what did that just do? Anybody? That sounds like moving a goalpost. We're not moving goalposts. We need to think, people. We need to go up every day and do what's best for our kids. That means thinking clearly. Thinking every single day. If they just set a rule that we're supposed to wear a mask till October, and then October, hopefully we're at 80%, well, we just proved that that doesn't make any sense. So why are they going to take off their masks? 80% vaccinated. Like the woman just said. We don't even have real testing on this vaccine. This is all brand new. And we're going to trust that for our children. I'm not. You can if you want. And that's completely up to you. And that's why it should be optional. And masking? Most people, sir, you have a mustache and a beard?
Yep.
You know that doesn't fit, right? OSHA guidelines says that you shouldn't have any facial hair to have a mask on. Or else it isn't doing anything. So again, we're going to do something else that doesn't make any sense at all. We're going to wear masks that are cloth, sir. No offense. It's cloth. What does that do? It doesn't do anything. There are so many good tests out there that say cloth masks do nothing. N95s, they would do 95%. Surgical masks, they do less than that. And we're going to let Nessie tell us what to do. I just think the school board, every state, should really be considering what exactly we're doing before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Hi, Mary Duggan Watson, Copeland Street, concerned grandparent who's raising a grandchild. First of all, before I start complaining and bitching about stuff, I would like to thank all of you. I have a granddaughter with cystic fibrosis. So you know how every day is pretty scary for us with this COVID deal. Thanks to big pharmaceutical companies, she has a chance to lead a normal life. She has missed 2 days of school in the last 2 years because of this great drug called Orkambi that was 13 years in the making. And it has changed the lives of thousands of respiratory disabled kids in such a way it's impossible for you, unless you've seen it, to notice the difference. So for everyone who has a horror story about pharmaceuticals and medicine, there's somebody like me who wasn't a big fan of it, very poor. I'm probably the poorest person in West Bridgewater. There's a great story that has to do with medicine and research. And I spent a lot of time at Children's Hospital, and I watch those people, and I listen to them. And they're some of the most well-educated people in the world, and people come from all over the world to go to Children's Hospital in Boston. So I guess I'm on the other side, and I want you to know that I'm a polio pioneer. In 1954, I stood in line with about 100 other kids when they came out with the polio vaccine. Anybody here got polio? One of my best friends, his name was Dean Andrews from Whitman, had died the week before in an iron lung from polio. We all lined up. We were scared. We didn't know if it was going to work. We didn't know what the effects were going to be. But guess what? Did pretty good. Did some kids have a bad reaction to it? Yes. Did millions of kids survive and be healthy and live a normal life? Yes. There's a man here in West Bridgewater named Jeffrey Kundis. I don't know if any of you know him. He has polio. He got polio from the vaccine. If you ask Jeffrey, when it came time for his kids to have the polio vaccine, they all got it. And thankfully, they had no problems. Yes, bad things happen to good people, and then good things happen. I am just amazed with the nurses, Mrs. Linsky, Julie, what they've done with my Campbell. She's 11, and she's ready to take on the world. And I'm telling you, you would not, if you saw her, have any idea that when she was born, the doctors said she might have to go on a double lung transplant list. Now, that's pretty hard to hear, that your granddaughter's going to go on a double lung transplant list. I mean, I'm crazy enough, but to hear something like that made me a lot crazier. Because of research and fundraisers, we've had fundraisers here at the school. I've had fundraisers, run basketball clinics myself. Got to meet Boomer Esiason, who gave $140 million to research. Because of that, there are thousands of kids that are doing okay. So, you know, and I was in the Peace Corps, and I hear, like, I'm now, Mr. Bottle's gonna love this, I'm now on the Food Pantry Search Committee, so you get to see a lot more of me. You know, how tough it is to put on a mask, or, you know, how tough it is to make our kids do this or do that. Well, I immigrated here from Ireland, and my mother told me to put on a mask or put on my mittens, and put them on. And when my mother told me that bedtime was at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, it was at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Parents stepped up and, you know, took care of that stuff. But I was in the Peace Corps in some of the worst countries in the world, where people had to wear masks just all the time as routine. And their kids, it was part of their life. They adapted to it. Kids adapt. They do better than we do. They process things better than we do if we encourage them to. If we sit there and tell them, yeah, this is horrible for you, we're taking away your freedom, we're planting a seed right there for them to not like it. Campbell says to me, I hate wearing a mask. I say, I don't care, you're wearing one. You know? I'm the parent, you're the kid, you're wearing one. And until we get through this, you know, we'll see. But again, I feel very sad for people who have had troubles and illness and injuries, and because of vaccinations, this thing is going to, but you know, like, to me, it's very complicated. I was a biology major, you know, I've never thought it was ever one particular thing. But as far as I'm concerned, my life has been enriched by what the medical field has done, and she's not been vaccinated. At Children's, they're not sure yet what they should do with cystic fibrosis kids. They haven't lost any, but it's scary. And I hope that I can be more proactive this year, meetings and helping out and working with the food pantry and everything. But there's always two sides to a coin. And I just really would like to thank everybody in this school system that have worked so hard with her to make life as enjoyable for her. And, you know, if she says she doesn't like wearing a mask, I'll say, yeah, I don't like wearing a bra, but, you know, it's the way it goes, you know? I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You know, you're glad I have on tonight. But, you know, sometimes we coddle our kids so much in this country after being in third world countries in the Peace Corps, I look at our kids out here and we say, oh, they have it so bad, or that was a tough call, or they have to wear masks. I'm like, what? You know, I worked in a country where somebody had to walk 2 hours to get a bottle of clean water. That's pretty stressful. A little stressful, more stressful than we have it here in West Bridgewater. So I'll stop, I know I'm going on, but I'd like to thank everybody who agrees with me, and I'd like to thank the people who disagree for bringing up points too, because they're valid also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everyone has had really good points. Can I take this off real quick just to make better?
Sure.
I just want to say everyone's had really great points this evening. Everyone's had family connections, and those are obviously very important. But everyone's brought up kids. You know, kids, blah, blah, blah. I'm speaking as a kid. I know this is one person, but I personally believe it should be your choice. Not the kid's choice, but the parent's choice. Your parents have raised you, they've watched over you, they've protected you since you were born. This should be their decision. Now, you can obviously have a say in it. It is your life, it's your body. But overall, I believe it should be you and your parents. Not some pharmacy company, not some Democrat or Republican, not anything like that. It should be your choice and your family's choice. And I respect what that lady just said. And this isn't someone planting the seeds. I've had grandparents that say vaccinations are great. I've had other grandparents that say they're not so great. You shouldn't get it. I've had people that care about me tell me two sides of the story this whole time. I had to take it into my own hand and make my own decision. So this is where I'm at for this year and for the prior years. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? I'll be quick. That kid's the man, dude. You're more well-spoken than I'll probably ever be. And I think a lot of people here know that. I think a lot of people know that. I probably don't want to cause a scene or anything. A lot of people in this room know.
Could you please just state your name?
I'm Bill O'Connor, 248 North Elm.
Thank you.
I'm done with drama. Like, I think people in this room know that. Like, I'm not about to debate the issue and everything. I just have a quick questions. What about kids on IEPs? It doesn't, you mentioned health and behavioral issues. You didn't say anything about developmental issues.
Correct. I mean, if they fit the criteria for an exemption, then they would be granted.
Which is what?
Medical or behavioral, signed off by a doctor.
Signed off by a doctor. Okay, because as far as I know, that was a legal document that we both signed. And it doesn't say anything about masks on that document.
Nope.
Okay, I just wanted to run that by us.
Correct.
Nice meeting you, by the way, Mark. I'm
Yes.
Bill. We've
Yep.
spoken a few times,
Yes.
but I just wanted to ask that, so just run it through with my doctor and see what he says and get
Correct.
you guys back. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mrs. Pope?
Hi, Jamie Pope. Should I say my address if I'm not here speaking as a parent? Okay, 140 Scotland Street. Today I'm speaking as the West Bridgewater Education Association president. We surveyed our members, and all I want to say is that the West Bridgewater Education Association supports the district implementing measures that decrease the possibility that healthy students are unable to be within our classrooms accessing learning opportunities. Therefore, the WBEA supports providing families the choice for the test and stay option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pope. Any further comment? No? Thank you.
I guess following those comments.
Sorry, could you just, when you get to the...
Yeah. I guess following those two comments right there, I'd like to ask you, what is the plans come October when we're not at 80%, or we are at 80%?
Just to be clear, the 80% is per school, not per district or not per town, so it's 80%. And at this time, realistically, as stated before, the only school that would be affected or possibly gets 80% would be the middle senior high school grades 7 to 12. As said in the guidance, the mask requirement, more information will be coming. So as of right now, they say the plan is that if we reach 80%, then vaccinated students and staff may remove their mask. Unvaccinated must remain masked, and that's part of the regulations.
And what is your opinion on school teachers and staff? Are you recommending that they get vaccinated?
That's a personal decision.
Okay, so you're not enforcing it?
No.
Okay. So once again, I guess I still have the same question. Why are we pushing for 80% if 80% does not reduce the amount of virus, as well as why are we allowing the Patriot Ledger to put that on media, on news networks, that if we reach 80%, we can take these off like a bribe? Why are we allowing that?
Sir, we have no, the Patriot Ledger, that has nothing to do with
No,
us.
but do you know what I'm saying, though,
I
right?
understand your comment, but
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the board here tonight, so.
And I understand that, but if we just sit there and just keep taking it.
Okay, but there's, again, there is nothing that this board can do or discuss with that comment.
Well, but the board's going to allow the masks.
The board has agreed with the DESI.
Right, so
yes.
we're going to allow DESI to play out everything.
We're simply reporting the information from DESI
Right.
through their mandate.
DESI,
the
who is
80%.
in charge of schooling our children, not medically our children.
They set mandates that we must follow.
DESI.
Correct.
The school.
For example, such as time on learning mandates, school year requirements, and so
Right,
forth.
right.
Those
School
are other
stuff.
mandates that
Like
we
learning,
must follow.
education.
Excuse me?
Education, not medical. I'm an EMT, sir. I know that wearing a mask all day for 8 hours a day is definitely changing the amount of oxygen/CO2 that I'm putting in and out of my body. So once again, I will not allow my son to sit in school all day with a mask on, taking and reducing the amount of oxygen that he's taking in. We do also realize that how do we detox our bodies on a daily? Because we're medical people. We're human beings. When we breathe in and out, what are we doing? Why do we urinate? We urinate to get rid of toxins. What is this doing? It's keeping toxins in. We're breathing in our own carbon dioxide. We're stopping oxygen. And once again, and yet we're just going to put a goalpost though. If we reach 80% though, they can take it off. You don't see an issue with that? You don't see like a goalpost put there? Kind of like 14 days to stop the spread? Do we not see this? I mean, what are we going to do? Are we just going to keep going along with it? Are we going to let DESI tell us medical advice for our children?
Again, we're following the mandate from the state.
Right.
Yes.
So we're going to follow you and you're going to follow them.
So
but nobody asked any questions.
Your concern shouldn't be with us, it should be with the state. making the
So
mandate.
but you are our go-to.
We're not making the mandate, the state is.
I understand that. But all we can do is email the state.
Yes, you can.
Right.
Sure.
But aren't you elected as our officials for education?
We are.
We are.
Yes, right.
School committee.
So you're our go-to.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So we're showing our concerns. So
And
what are we going to
appreciate
do?
your concerns. We've listened to your concerns, and we have listened, and we will listen more. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor. I don't understand a lot of this stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand the mandates.
Right.
I'm taking in the information just like you are, just like everyone else in this room is, and I'm deciphering this information for my own family, for my own personal
Exactly, right.
beliefs.
Because we all have
So,
children, right.
This is a pandemic that's something we've never seen before, and there's new information daily coming out. So as far as what we're going to do, I would say is that I think we take it day by day. And that's pretty much the best I can do for my family, is to take it day by day.
Okay. So are you going to try to instill in the, I guess the children, that they should be vaccinated? I guess I should start there.
It's not my place to instill anything into any children or into any family.
So
It's
we're
my
not going
place
to even give any advice to children and or staff?
That's their personal decision.
That's their personal decision, and that would be a family decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, just another question. Could I state my name and address again?
Please.
248 North Elm, West Bridgewater. You said you're reporting the guidelines from Tessie, but you're also encouraging it, I guess?
We're required to enforce it.
You're
Yes.
trying to enforce it, that was what I was
Correct.
looking for, thank you.
Yes.
But you also said that they're not giving you any of the data that, they're not giving you any of the data that made them that come to this decision. They're just telling you this is what it needs to be, and you're saying pretty much okay?
It's a state mandate
Right.
that we're following.
Yep.
There's information out there that's been shared to the Department of Public Health that goes into the statements. A lot of them have been from DESE and with the Department of Public Health, so yes.
Right, but none of you guys get them or anything, no? I'm just asking.
They can be found online. Yeah.
So anyone, that's just public knowledge, can just go and find
I
it?
believe so.
I was just, I don't know, just asking that, so you're enforcing it, that you stated before that you haven't gotten any of the data. I don't know how that's kind of not just a conflict of interest. And if you
I
don't,
think Mr. Bodwell was speaking on a different question when he said about the data. I think that would have to do with the sociology.
the sociology part of it? Oh, that all
that
leads
was
into
different.
the...
I think that was what Mr. Bodwell was
Right,
commenting on.
it all just leads into the mask mandate question, I'll call it, or debate, I guess. And I'm not looking to debate. These are just questions that I have that I would just like answers to. What if you didn't follow that? What if you didn't enforce it? What would be...
We lose state and federal funding as part of it if you don't follow the regulations.
Complete funding for that year in general, or just forever?
They don't specify that in
Right.
Mass General Law, but it says loss of state and federal funding.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. On to other business, some of our announcements. District-wide, the first day of school for teachers and students, teachers will be August 30th, teachers report back. August 31st, grades 1 through 12 will report. September 7th, pre-K and kindergarten report. There'll be a half-day on September 2nd. There'll be no school on September 3rd and September 6th. Athletic Boosters Meeting, September 8th, 7 p.m. in the Middle Senior High School Learning Commons. Those are all happened. The Roselle McDonald School, August 30th, grade 1 meet and greet from 8:30 to 9. The Spring Street School, September 1st, preschool orientations. Mrs. Maddows, 12:30 to 1:15 at Spring Street School, and Mrs. Dancy from 12 to 12:40, and again at 1 to 1:40 Spring Street School. September 2nd, kindergarten orientation. Mrs. Gauthier and Mrs. Conroy at 10 o'clock in the cafe. Mrs. Jennings and Mrs. Gillis, to be determined teacher, at 1 p.m. in the cafe. The next regular school committee meeting will be September 13th at 6:30 p.m. here in the Middle Senior High School Learning Commons. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.